Yeah, and we do these expeditions a few times a year. I used to, there are only about 20 people who are allowed to come now.
20 at a time?
Because I can't handle more than that for a week out in the desert or out in the mountains. But the next one's going to be in the high desert of Colorado at about 8,000 feet. There's a remote area near the Great Sand Dunes that's had a lot of reports of UFOs and contact. In fact, the film director and his crew were out there last June, a few months ago, in 2012, when we had this disc fly over, and then a jet came in to intercept it, and it just... And that's going to be in the film. It's really cool.
You have a video of that or a photo of that?
Both.
Really? So you have a video of this disc in the sky and then a jet approaching the disc and the disc.
Probably coming out of Colorado Springs because it was coming out of that direction. But yeah, it's really pretty cool. And of course, I think when the director saw this, he went, oh, "Wow!"
And who put this video together? Who made it? Who filmed it?
The film crew, for Sirius.
So you, wow.
So
you have this. You have. I want to make sure that I'm real clear of this. You have thousands of these videos.
Well, there's one. If you go again to this website, you'll see that there's a section for the contact expeditions and the CE5 expeditions. And a couple years ago, we were up on. There's a mountain north of here called Mount Shasta near the Oregon border. In the Cascade Range, and it's a volcanic mountain. And we've gone up there a number of years, and we've had these objects that have appeared, and one of them was actually in the field. We had our night vision camera running, and it lifted up, and then does like this corkscrew and dematerialize in the sky. We have this on videotape, and it was during one of these expeditions, and it's a really amazing bit of video.
Is ball lightning a real phenomenon?
Oh yeah, sure. But that's not. This is clear skies, no weather. But coming up from the ground.
But don't they? But doesn't ball lightning have something to do with? There's certain types of visual phenomena that have to do with tectonic plates and pressure and stress.
Piezoelectric.
Yeah. What is that?
No. Well, that's very different. Also, that'll be just sort of a discharge, like an electrical discharge.
So you just see it,
and that's from the rocks. And usually, it's when there's quartz. The pressure of it and electromagnetic energy will build up and it'll burst out. But this is an object, and you can see it quite clearly, and it's right at the edge of the speed of light because it's kind of coming in and out of this dimension. It's a really great video. And there were like 30, 40 people who saw this happen. So we do this. I've been doing this for 22 years. And we also train people to always go out with satellite charts, so you know when the satellites
This is your footage of this thing flying in the sky?
Yep.
Now, when you were filming this, are you trying to contact them? Like, what are you trying to do?
So we do the protocols where you do the remote viewing, set up the vector to show them where you are. We play these electronic tones in the space and then have electronic field detectors out there. So we'll have magnetic field detectors, various laser detectors, other electromagnetic spectrum. And those will begin to go off. And then we'll have an object fly over, like this object here that was right near us. It comes right outside. So what people have to understand is that if you have an object that is coming in and out of dimensions, it's not going to necessarily look like a 747 or even a flying saucer. It's going to be in various energy forms. And this is the weird sort of effect. Most people don't understand that 99% of the time an interstellar civilization doesn't have to be in linear space-time if they have that kind of physics. So what happens when you go beyond the speed of light? All right, you're going to not have anything visible, but if you begin to have an energy discharge into an area of space, and it's very close to this dimension, it'll start to give off an energy field, our corona. And so one of the witnesses we have was at a nuclear hot base out in Oklahoma back years ago. I think it was in the 70s. And there was this object that was in the shape of a UFO, but it wasn't solid. And it flew over what they call the hot, where the jets were hot loaded with nuclear weapons. And the alarms went off. But he says this thing was not solid like this is. You could have walked right through it, but it was in the shape of a craft. But it was shifted so that the matter was all energy. And, of course, matter is energy. So the physics behind this gets into some really arcane stuff, probably beyond the scope of the show. But this is part of what we're teaching people when we take them out, is how do these objects appear? What might you see? And I was talking to an actor here in town who had one of these happen near his home. And it was very palpable, very real. But it wasn't
Can you tell us who the actor was? We could tell you not they're full of shit.
No, but there are a lot of people who've had these sort of experiences. They don't want to talk about it,
Right.
Because they're afraid of being ridiculed.
Right.
But when it was described to me, I said, "Oh yeah, that's classic." They said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah," because if it's not a Lockheed Martin, anti-gravity, and it really is ET, the weirder it is, the more likely it is to be ET. And this gets into the whole question, what are you looking for? So we train people to know kind of what to look for versus, if experimental aircraft, normal aircraft, space objects and junk, satellites, and then the stuff that's the weird end of it.
So the weird end of it.
Yeah, the really cool stuff.
The really cool stuff. You take these people, you bring them out to the high desert, you tune them into whatever frequency through whatever methods of meditation or what have you. And these ships, are they just waiting for someone to email them, to send them a signal?
You know what I think? I think that they've actually been waiting a long time for people to do something besides just passively look at them.
Do they have to? But what I'm saying is, do they have to load up the ship? Hey, everybody, get on board. Let's go. How are you getting them to manifest?
I'm not getting them to.
But how is anybody getting? How is the signal being recognized by them?
Because I'm quite convinced they have electronics that pick up on this, what we were talking about earlier, this conscious field of coherent thought. And this is, again, the most controversial end of what I'm doing. To me, it's the most interesting also. Before I was a doctor, I was a meditation teacher. I don't know if you know that. But
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What type of meditation?
Mantra and Vedic. So
Okay.
I was Vedanta and Vedic meditation. I learned Sanskrit and learned to teach people meditation. So that was my first sort of career, if you can call it a career. It was an avocation as much as more than a vocation. But and I began to realize that really the thing that is most intriguing about all this is that free energy is like late 1800s to mid 1900s. Anti-gravity, mid 40s to mid 50s. The science of consciousness and the interface between mind and matter, mind and body, mind and thought and electromagnetic systems, that's the really cool stuff. And that's, to me, most people know me for the Disclosure Project and these other things, but to me that's the most exciting part of this because that is the frontier. The final frontier is not space, it's consciousness.
So you take these people out, there's 20 of them, and you spend how many days out there?
It's usually 6 days and nights, and so we go out. During the day, it's more a teaching module and teaching them remote viewing concepts and science of consciousness, other information they need to have. Then we go out at night, usually from around sunset till 1 or so in the morning, sometimes 2. And we're out in the stars making observation, doing the remote viewing practice, and then people go home and do it. There's now something like 11 or 1,200 teams all over the world doing this that have picked up on this idea. It's really a phenomenal thing, and people are having amazing sightings and experiences all over the world. There's a global CE5 initiative going on, and it's really
when
exciting.
When you keep saying CE5, you
Close
mean
Encounters of the
fifth kind, which is visual?
No.
What is
Okay, let me explain
kind?
that. I'm sorry. We back
Because
up.
I know the movie, the third kind.
Yeah, that's Steven Spielberg's
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
That's how I know this.
Yeah.
Most people are probably like me. They don't
Okay,
know
and the
what
fourth
numbers
kind
are.
is when someone feels they've had contact and been on board. Close Encounters of the first, second, third, and fourth kind are passive because you're sort of either seeing it or it's a landing thing or what have you. A Close Encounter of the fifth kind is when a human does something interactive. So it's like it's like the internet versus something passive, or where you're actually making contact and inviting these civilizations to appear and make contact for a diplomatic purpose, or where they interact. And Dr. Haynes at NASA, Ames, put together a great book based on my initial research on this called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, CE5, where he collected cases. We both collected cases, but he published this book some years ago about all these people who had done this. And some of them were quite incidental. For example, a craft is there and the person sees it, and instead of just gaping, they actually signal to it with, say, a light, and it signals back and comes over. The more interesting ones are the ones I discovered, which is what happened to me when I was 18, where you see a craft and you just think, move to the left, it moves to the left, move to the right, move to the right. And they're showing you that there's a link up between intent and thought and their electronics. And that's the really cool stuff.
You ever read any Carl Jung?
Yes.
What do you think on Carl? I mean, he wrote a whole book on the physical manifestation of UFOs through the conscious thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, the world is as you are. And it depends on the level of consciousness of the person reading what he wrote. I think that a lot of people say, well, that means that everything is being manifested by your mind. Mm-hmm. Well, but in a sense, all of reality is one conscious thought, if you want to get back into the whole all this is that concept of the Vedic. But I think these are things when you have 30 or 40 people see it, and it's interactive, that's a close encounter of the fifth kind. So it's not your imagination doing that, particularly when you then get video. And
I don't even think he was necessarily saying it's your imagination.
No, but he was, a lot of people don't understand what he was saying. Mm-hmm. And I think that he was really talking about some of the deeper aspect of what is mind.
Right, what is mind? What is mind? And what effect does consciousness have on physical matter?
Right, and it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And in a sense, he could have almost been validating it without totally understanding the possibilities of contacting something and making something appear.
I agree.
That you seem to be convinced of, and in fact teach people to do it. I think that if you've got something like that, how is this not like on 2020 or whatever those stupid news shows are? How are you not going out there?
Well,
would you be willing to do that with a film crew?
Oh, we did with CBS. With Dan Rather had a show back years ago. What was it called? We went down to Mexico, Popo, and we did this. And a craft came up by the volcano, flew, and they were filming this with professional stuff, and they ended up completely debunking it. And even though the camera guy and the reporter who was there with me said, anyone who sees this will know this is real, and CBS sanitized it. And when I then said, look, you agreed in writing that any footage you get you would share with us if we did this expedition, because we did it on our own expense, the person in charge there said, we're CBS, and we're part of a corporation that has billions, and we'll fight you forever. You'll never get this footage.
Why would you need CBS, though? It seems like you'd be able to film something like that yourself in really high quality. You don't need their footage.
Well, we do. I mean, we have a certain amount. Right. I don't operate cameras, but we've had volunteers. But we've never had professional crews with us. And I mean, at some point, it'd be nice if we could do this in a more professional way.
I have a crew. Yeah. I have a new show. It's coming out on the Sci-Fi Network.
Oh, really? What's it called?
It's called Question Everything. And
good.
One of the things we're going to do, and one of the things we're going to do is we're going to explore things like UFOs, Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to the Pacific Northwest and look for Bigfoot. But I want to. I would love to go with you.
Let's go to the Atacama Desert and see if we can find more of these beings.
Tell me where to go. Let's go.
Yeah.
I would be more than happy to go and bring a professional crew and see if something like this can happen. What kind of success rate do you have in doing this?
Well, we've never actually gone out where there hasn't been some kind of a sighting or event happen that have been seen by everyone.
Really?
Never.
So it's 100%.
Not every night and not all the time,
right,
but
something over a 5 or 6 day period. Mm-hmm. And are these people camping out there?
No. We don't stay. Well, I mean, I guess if someone wanted to, we usually stay in condos or houses or something in the area. We usually go to fairly, remote areas that are quiet. It's very hard to find locations where we're not going to be intruded upon. And usually when we do this, we do have people who intrude. And so we try to keep it, so that the group can be coherent. Because the whole concept of this is coherent thought and coherent mind. And that's, very difficult to do when you're being disrupted by a lot of folks.
Now, what if you pick 20 people to go, and how do you know that someone's not a loon? You take some crackpot out there.
Oh, well, there have
desert.
Been, usually the people, we have an application process, and I I'd say 99% of the time they're just wonderful people. Right. And, they're very sincerely interested in learning about this. And I think the science of consciousness component of the whole, what J. Allen Hynek called the high strangeness part of UFO encounters, becomes very compelling for people who've had contact and understand that when you go beyond the speed of light between star systems, you're dealing with something that's way beyond your cell phone and a Ford Explorer. And people who get that, who get out of the linear box and begin to look at that, and then begin to experiment with, a lot of the people who come on these are people who have gotten the app or learned about it, and they try it at try this at home. And they have an amazing sighting and encounter with a small group of people or a family, and then they want to